Welcome to the channel, guys. We are back again, and today we're going to be talking about Vanille Havane by Les Indemodables. So stay tuned for that. If you like top 10 list, fragrance reviews, cologne comparisons, and first impressions, hit that subscribe button for more great content. So this is a fragrance that I'm pretty sure was, well, at least the first time I heard of it anyways, was from Equality Fragrances. He talked a lot about this fragrance, and I even had a subscriber ask me to, or if I had if I had smelled it. So I did finally get a sample of this one, and I've definitely tried this one out, tried it out a few times to sort of develop my thoughts on it. And I've not really heard anything of this house other than this fragrance. They are a niche fragrance brand, and they are, of course, have niche prices, so do be aware of that. They're not cheap buys, but you know what? Let's just talk about the fragrance before I get into an overall evaluation. Now, this one really struck me actually as one that I would like. It is a Boozy tobacco fragrance, and I do really like that style of fragrance. So to me, it was something at least I thought that I might like. Now, on the opening, this one is actually very, very boozy. Now, interestingly, this one has a rum note in it, but to me, it actually smells a lot more like rye whiskey. And I don't know if that's because the fruits are mixing in with the rum note, and it gives it this really strong whiskey vibe. But I do also get quite a prominent dose of the fruits as well. So there is a bit of this sweet fruitiness that's quite rich, along with this very, very potent booziness. Again, to me, it smells a lot more like whiskey than rum. So that, at least for me, is one thing to point out. So very, very boozy in the opening. Now, the overwhelming booziness doesn't really last that long. Certainly, this is a fragrance that maintains its booziness, for a while. But, right on the first initial blast, to me, that's all I smell. The booziness and the fruitiness, that's it. But what starts to creep into this one a little bit is a hint of leather. I don't get a ton of it, but I do get a little bit of leather here and there. The cocoa and the tobacco. I don't really get tons of the vanilla right away. It's kind of there with a little bit of sweetness, but really the tobacco is quite prominent. And to me, it does come off a little bit even smoky at times. I also find the tobacco note is quite thick and rich. And so I was trying to think of other fragrances that this smells like, and honestly, every time I've worn this, I've gotten something a little bit different. So it is certainly one of these fragrances that has a lot of depth and character that you can spend a lot of time really digesting. This doesn't smell like other fragrances that I've smelled. I know some people compared it to Black Phantom, which to me, not at all like Black Phantom. The only thing that I would say is similar to this is XL Nuit, which also doesn't smell like this, but they both have tobacco and cocoa. So I think there is a little bit of an overlap there in the fact that they have like this cocoa tobacco vibe. And I do find at times that the sort of thick, almost fluffy tobacco that this fragrance has, I also get a similar note sometimes in XL Nuit. But again, they do smell quite different. Even the cocoa doesn't come off quite the same. I do find this sometimes mixes into something that, when you first get it, it does smell a little bit more like an actual cocoa powder. But especially as this one starts to dry down and the vanilla pops in a little bit more, I get a very kind of milk chocolate vibe with this one, which is actually really, really interesting. And it is definitely during the dry down, or as this one is drying down, that it gets a lot more of that sort of thick tobacco vibe. Like I said in the opening, I get a little bit of a leathery vibe with a somewhat dry, almost smoky tobacco as well. And so it does change quite a bit, and I find that even a single note changes quite a bit. The booziness that I mentioned, very strong, only lasts probably about an hour before it really starts to toe down. The fruitiness does stay there, but also tones down a lot. So those two are, obvious top notes that do dissipate. And, as this one starts to dry down, the cocoa actually stays a long time, which is really nice because it really starts to mix in with that vanilla and gives it a little bit of a, like I said, chocolate milk, or sorry, a milk chocolate kind of a vibe with a with a creamy vanilla. It's not like it doesn't at all smell like the vanilla dry down of Oud Vanille or Wicked Good. Both, Wicked Good, which does also have chocolate in it, and Oud Vanille, which is a very vanilla dominant in the dry down. So a very, very different vanilla vibe there. And actually it's quite pleasant. A little bit sensual as well in the dry down. It does definitely have a lot of character to it. The tobacco sort of lingers around, but definitely once this one reaches past the 5 or 6 hour mark, I do find definitely that it's more of a cocoa and vanilla fragrance. And I think that's something that they were going for with this, was something that is a little bit of a darker vanilla and a vanilla dominant fragrance. I think that the vanilla takes a little while to really take the center stage, but it certainly does. Like I said, you can pick up a little bit in the opening, or at least I can, and it does have a little bit of this dark vibe that goes along with the tobacco and the booziness and the leather and all that. Now there's florals in this one. I don't get any of that at all. I get absolutely no florals whatsoever. So, if you are adverse to florals whatsoever or don't like them, don't worry about this one whatsoever. Now, performance of this one, also quite good. Definitely has some strong sillage, especially during that boozy phase. It smells very, very alcoholic and very strong alcohol in the air. So, this is one that, you probably don't really want to wear to work unless you don't mind smelling like you've just done a couple of shots of whiskey for, an hour or so. Personally, I don't mind too much, but your employer may not like that. But it does have very nice projection for the first couple of hours. It does tone down. It does settle a little bit closer, but it does last a long time too. So this is one that definitely hits that 8 hour mark for sure. Lasts a little bit longer, I would say, usually out of the times that I've tested it out. But it does have good longevity. So projection, longevity, both excellent. As for occasions, best suited for a night out. You can wear this suit and tie, definitely, because it has, tobacco, it has cocoa, it has boozy vibes. And boozy fragrances often make me think of formal occasions for whatever reason. I think they just seem like nice sort of suit and tie fragrances. And this one could definitely do that. The quality is there. The smell is rich and complex. It's intriguing. And so I think it's one that you can definitely wear formally on a formal night out. But it's also nice for a casual night out as well. Like, not so formal. Maybe you're going on a date. Maybe you're just going out to have some fun, going to the bar or something like that. This is a nice one too. It definitely has that sort of sensual, mysterious vibe that I sort of associate more with night outs. Now, of course, you can wear it whenever you want. But I think that's sort of the best occasion for this fragrance. And I think it's definitely better for fall winter. It has the performance for winter. It's not overly sweet. Like, even for a vanilla fragrance, it's not overly sweet. It's a little bit sweet. So because it has all these other notes in it, and the vanilla doesn't really punch you in the face, it's not a super sweet fragrance. So you might even be able to wear it in spring, especially in the evening. I wouldn't wear it in the heat, but that's about it. It is a fairly thick fragrance. And so even on a cool summer night, if it's not too blazing outside, this one might certainly work. But again, I wouldn't consider this to be a super versatile fragrance. But if you like chocolate, if you like cocoa, if you like tobacco, this is one to try out especially. Boozy fragrances, this has a really nice boozy opening. So if you do like boozy fragrances, you will probably really like the opening. But it doesn't stay boozy for the entire fragrance. So that is something to be aware of. It's not like... even something like single malt doesn't stay boozy the entire time, but it does have a bit of a more of a boozy vibe. But still, nice boozy, tobacco, chocolate, and vanilla fragrance. Very nicely put together, and I would be interested certainly in trying more from the house. This is, it's an absolute win, and I think a lot of people are really, really going to enjoy this one. But again, the only thing I guess to be aware of is that it is a little bit more expensive. I think it's like $250, which is, it's not a cheap fragrance. But it is one that I think will last you a long time because it does have good performance and good projection. You'll definitely not have to reapply this one unless you're out for a really long time. But anyways, guys, you know what? I think that's going to be the video for me. I really enjoy this fragrance, and I would recommend checking it out. If you've tried anything else from Les Indemodables, I know I'm butchering that name, but If you've tried anything else from the brand, let me know down below. They certainly do have a few other fragrances that sound really, really interesting, and I'll probably aim to pick up some more samples in the future. But if you have recommendations, or even just other, cocoa, tobacco, boozy fragrances, or whatever that you really recommend, leave a comment down below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.